All right, guys. Just going to do a quick little video here talking about crowding out. Um, Crowding out has to do with the loanable funds graph. And remember a couple of different things about the loanable funds graph, right? One, this is kind of the long run, okay? So not talking about nominal interest rates, but after, nominal interest rates fall and are adjusted for inflation with increases of price level and that kind of stuff, we'll get our real interest rates. So it's a long run. And then it's also talking about the quantity of loans. So a couple things to remember: the supply are the loaners, and the demand are the borrowers, right? So it's a key thing to remember there. And then when it comes to crowding out, we're really just focusing on borrowing. So remember that in any supply and demand graph, the downward sloping demand curve shows an inverse relationship between quantity and, in this case, real interest rates. So the quantity of loans, if real interest rates increase, the quantity of loans will decrease, okay, when it comes to demand. And the demand curve, this initial demand curve, is also going to represent the quantity of private investment. So businesses and people that want loans, the demand curve is showing that there, okay? So crowding out is talking about government increasing deficit spending. So the government, like for right now and during this crisis, the government is going to continue or increase their amount of deficit spending, meaning that they're going to need to borrow money from places in which private individuals also borrow money. Okay, so because of this, what will happen? The demand for loanable funds, the real interest rate, and private domestic investment. All right, so private domestic investment is for the most part going to be represented by that demand curve right there. So we know that the government wants to increase deficit spending. That means the demand curve is going to shift, right? An increase in demand because the government now wants more loans. So what happened to interest rates? Well, real interest rates increase, all right, which is a problem for the people the private people or the private investment, that's going to decrease. And what I mean by that is that initial curve right there, which shows the private investment, has now been shifted. And so all those people that wanted lower interest rates no longer can get that. And the only people that are left are the people that have the new interest rates. We call this crowding out. So there's a gap now of people who would have borrowed money if interest rates were lower, but now won't because interest rates are higher due to government deficit spending. Okay. So crowding out is the total, or so just kind of looking at this. So the total number of loans increased to Q2, but was due to public borrowing. So private borrowing is going to end up decreasing to QPI. All right. And that's what we talked about in the previous slide there. Okay. So same scenario. So in the long run, the impact of higher real interest rates is going to mean less economic growth because, for example, businesses won't buy capital stock goods or won't buy as many because interest rates are higher due to government spending and the increasing interest rates. All right. And so crowding out is the adverse effect of government borrowing on interest-sensitive private sector spending. Interesting, we don't have that really happening right now in our current economic crisis, and the fact that, at least yet, we could potentially in the long run, but interest rates a lot of times are tied to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates low. So we don't have to worry about that as of now, but there is an article about India having some issues with crowding out. So there you go.